go ahead and start with today's lesson. We are going to do a quick review of the different lines that we learned about the other day. So remember, we have started off with the straight line. And now the straight line is just going across that paper. We can have the horizontal line. We can have a line that goes up and down, and that is a vertical line. We can have a line that goes across the paper in an upward or downward way, and that's a diagonal line. And you can combine these lines in different ways. If you've ever played tic-tac-toe, you play that game with making I'm gonna say hashtag, you make that with a grid using a straight line. And your lines can also be very small as well. And these are straight lines. Then we have the zigzag line. Now remember, the zigzag line is just a bunch of straight lines put together. That's all a zigzag line is. You are connecting those straight lines. I'm going to do a curved line next. A curved line is a line that goes around like almost like a rainbow. So you can make things that look like hills. You can make bumpy lines. You can make a big bouncy line. So if you've got a ball, I like to make little caterpillars using my curved lines. So that's what a curved line is all about. Now, if you put those curved lines all together, going up and down, that is a wavy line. So we have wavy lines. You can do small waves. You can do big waves. You can do a combination of the two. All right. So those are 4 lines that we have learned about. Now, the 4 lines that we're going to be looking at today, I'm going to start us off with the curly or loopy line. Now, the curly or loopy line, if you have curly hair, or if you've ever been on a big, huge roller coaster, that is using the curly line or the loopy line. So you can make small loops. You can make really big ones. I love making tornadoes, and I'll show you how to make a tornado when we get into the lesson. A tornado, I love it because you can make your lines, your loops really, really big, and then you can go really small, and that will help make something that looks like a tornado. You can also do a squiggle line, just all random curls all together. Looks like a mess, but it actually turns out to be quite lovely, I think. So this is the curly or loopy line. The next line that we have is the dashed or dotted line. Dashed and dotted lines are super fun too, and they're really easy to make. They are just short, tiny, little lines, just like this. And if you're putting these things all in an order, then they make a line. And we're going to do that today as well. I love this type of line. We're using only straight lines to make this, but this is called a castle line. So you're making a straight line, then you're going up, across, down, across, up, over, down, over. That is a castle line. And the cool thing about the castle line is that you can change your castle line too. And that's tons of fun, especially if you're trying to make, so I'll put this all together like here. If you're trying to make buildings, that's a great way to make buildings using the castle line. And then I saved the best for last because this is my favorite line of all. This is called the swirl line. And the swirl line is just a lot of fun. I think I might like swirl lines just because it has that S in there. And my first name starts with an S, Sonia. So S, swirl. When I think swirl, I think lollipops, I think ice cream, I think tons and tons of fun. So that's why I like the swirl line. And it's also super fun to make. All right, so the other day we used a piece of paper and then we used some different crayons to go ahead and make our beautiful masterpiece. We're going to do the exact same thing today, but we're going to be focusing on those 4 lines that I just mentioned. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try first to go over the lines. We're going to go over these lines and we're going to make them on this side. And then we're going to turn our paper over and we're going to go ahead and we're going to make those lines all in these different directions so we can have our art masterpiece on this side. All right. So side 1 is when we practice our lines because these lines are a little bit tricky. They can be a little bit tricky. So I want us to have plenty of time to go ahead and practice with these lines. All right. So the first one is the curly or loopy line. Now the curly or loopy line, again, we can have some small ones. We can have big ones. I'm going to show you how to make a tornado. And of course, we have the beautiful scribble lines, which I absolutely love. All right, so when you're making the small line, or the curly line, all you're going to do is you're going to start, I usually start underneath here. I usually don't start at the top and then go down. For some reason, that's just how I am. You might do it a little bit differently. It's all good. So I'm going to go up, over, and back down. Up, over, back down. Now, parents, if you want, you can take this time and you can put your hand on your child's hand. These loops do not have to be perfect at all. It's just to get into that rhythm. A lot of times I'll try to also do it in the air first. I'll just hold my pencil out and I just want to get in that habit of using my elbow and using my shoulder to try to really make those lines. If kids were with me in the classroom, we would be doing a lot of standing up movement to make this happen. All right, so we're gonna go up, over, up, over. If you wanna make them small, if you want to make them really big, you can. And to make that tornado, we're just going to start out really big, and then we're going to go smaller, 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 smaller. All right, so that's how we make that tornado. Okay, now the next line that I want to show you, I'm going to put this crayon down. The next line I want to show you is the dashed or dotted line. The dashed or dotted line is a great line because it has a lot of movement to it. I should actually just draw like a little tiny bee. So you can kind of see that that's just this little tiny critter. He's flying in the air. You see this a lot of times in storybooks where they've got those little dotted loops. These lines are really good to show movement. And we'll get more into that later on in the year. But to make that dashed or dotted line, all you're going to do is you're going to make, I'll do that on another piece of paper because I think it's easier for you. You're just going to make some short little lines. Short little lines. And if I put them all in a row, that is a dashed line. Now to make a dotted line, I'm going to make little dots. And I'm going to put these little dots all in a row. And that gives me a line. I can make them go up and down. I can make them really close together. I can make them go in a loop. The main thing is that I want them to be close enough together so it looks like it forms a line. If I just put this down and I don't do anything around it, that is a dot. If I put more together, that is a line. Now you can do a combination, and this is when we get into patterns. You can do a combination. So I have dash, dot, dash, dot, dash, dot. And this is a type of line as well. All right, so that's the dashed dotted line. The next line that I want to show you is the castle line. So remember with the castle line, you are going across, up, over, down, over, up, over, down, over, up, over, down, over, up, over, down. All right, so let's try that. Over, up, over, down, over, up, over, down, over, up, over, down, over, up, over, down. Now, if you want to change a little bit, you can always make your lines longer or shorter. They don't always have to be the same. And actually, it's way more fun when you start making them differently. See how these kind of look like buildings? And if you want to make them into more looking like buildings, oh, it's almost like I'm making a face. You can have little circles. You can have lines. All of a sudden, they kind of look like buildings. I can even give myself some smokestacks. Woo! Using my curly lines. So notice, I'm starting to make a picture just by using some of the lines that we're learning. All right, the last line that I want to talk to you about is the swirl line. Swirl. Woo. Swirls are beautiful. Swirls are wonderful. I think we just need to give it a whirl and try a swirl. All right, so let's go ahead and people do this a little bit differently. You might do it a little bit differently than I do. I like to start my swirls always in the middle because I don't know how big I'm going to make my swirl. It depends on how I feel. Other people, they like to start big and work themselves smaller. You decide what works for you. I'm going to try it both ways. All right, so if I start off with my swirl, all I'm doing is going around and around and around and around and around. That's my swirl. All right, now let's see if I can do this going the opposite way from big to small. I'm going to go big, 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 big. And I'm going around and I'm making it smaller and smaller and smaller. So it's kind of like I'm making a target. So that's how it is if you're going to go the opposite way. If you want to, you can also connect your swirls. You can put your swirls all together, making them different sizes, making them different colors. I just love making swirls. All right, so hopefully the back of your paper is just covered with all of these different types of dots. So what I want you to do, I want you to turn your paper over. Hopefully it's blank. If it's not, get out a new piece of paper really fast. And we're going to start. And somehow Mrs. Chapman has lost pretty much all of her crayons. So she's going to get some more. I got my orange and I'll do another brown. All right, so let's start with our masterpiece. Remember, we want to go big. We want to fill up this entire paper with our beautiful lines. So let's start first with the curly, loopy line. All right, now remember what you know about this line and what you're going to do. I don't know if I can do this side by side. Ooh, I can do this side by side. We're going to try just to go crazy. Remember, That's what we're doing on this one. We are just making our beautiful loops. I want you to make these loops nice and big. Maybe put some small ones in here. Maybe make them even bigger. Whoa, whoa. All right, I like it already. I think it's great. All right, so this is my loopy line. Awesome. I'm gonna put loopy crayon away, and I am gonna get out another crayon to go ahead and do my next line, which is, if I can find you in all my mess, if I can find you, it's the dashed and dotted line. Okay, so my dashed and dotted line, I'm going to go ahead and use this accent because I feel like it. All right, so, no, I'm not. I'm going to just go ahead and make these short little dashed lines. I find dashed lines to be very orderly, very neat, but I like them too. Nice. Maybe throw in some dots. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come over here, make some more. So you guys just spend some time making some dashed, dotted lines all over your paper. Maybe make some combos. I've got a dash, dot, dash, dot, dash, dot, dash, dot, dash. I've got that going on here. So maybe you guys go ahead and do whatever you need to, but make sure you're doing your dash and dotted line. Okay, now the next line that we're going to work on is the castle line. So my castle line, remember I go over, up, over, down, over, up, over, down, over, up, over, down, over, up, over, down. And you can change the sizes of your lines. All right, so let's give it a go. Over, up, over, down, over, up, over, down, over, up, and I will be quiet now so you guys can make your lines. Yahoo! Pretty fun. All right, last line, the swirl line. All right, so the swirl line, I'll do this one. No, that's not gonna work. All of my crayons are very light. They're just not working for this. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my swirl line. Remember, I like to start small and I like to go big on my swirls, but you might like to do something else. Remember what your swirls look like. All right, so these are your lines. These are 4 more lines for you to put in your line library. If you have any empty spaces, if you have anything that you want to change, if you want to add any other kinds of lines, now is the time for you to go ahead and do that. And when you are done, please have your mother or your father, parent, please have your parent take a photo, send it to me, and I will put it in our gallery for everybody to see. because that is another thing about art too. It's great for other people to look at. All right, so that's our line lesson today. Keep making those lines, keep practicing, see different lines that you can make, and I will check in with you next week.